Hello. So it's been about 2 months since I put out my last video. This video is not a language progress check video like one of those like my 3 month was. It's more of like a mini update to what I'm doing to learn Japanese instead of actually like how far I've progressed in the time since. So yeah, to summarize, in my last video, I was basically learning everything through textbooks. I was using the Genki series. I finished Genki 1 at the time. After that, I started working through Genki 2. I was learning kanji through Kanji Look and Learn. All of these books that I'm mentioning I have right here. So yeah, I was using these to learn. And basically, I stopped all that. To explain why, after I put out my 3 month video, I came across this YouTube channel, MattvsJapan, and a lot of his videos talked about for those of you who don't know or won't check out MattvsJapan after this, basically to summarize, MattvsJapan is one of the bigger figures in the Japanese language learning community, and he advocates for this alternative method of learning through immersion. And for those of you who don't know what that is, it's basically you consume native material in your target language to learn it. And what that means is reading books, news articles, so in your target language. So for me, that would be Japanese. Watching TV shows, watching YouTube videos, just listening to Japanese audio all the time, and that's the way that you would learn as opposed to traditional textbook methods. So yeah, in particular, there was one video that stood out to me. It was called JLPT N1 and Not Fluent. So basically, Matt interviewed this person who went to one of the best colleges in the US for learning Japanese, was one of the best students, probably arguably in that program's history, took the highest level of the Japanese language proficiency test, and he passed it. And yeah, his Japanese, even after all of that, on paper, he should be really good at Japanese. That's not to say that he wasn't, but it's to say that the way that he spoke and the way that he wasn't comprehensible to other Japanese people, because the way that he learned through textbooks, he applied every single thing that he was using so he wouldn't forget it. And as a result of that, when he would make sentences and write, it was very unnatural. He couldn't have regular conversations with people who were regular Japanese people. So yeah, that was kind of I felt like if I had continued going down the Genki path, because a lot of what that person went through, that was the same thing I was planning to do. I was planning to take more college classes in for Japanese, work through Japanese textbooks, and just get fluent that way, or get proficient in the language that way. So I'm kind of glad I found that video when I did, because it kind of or even after that video, I was still working through Genki and things like that, but it made me question a lot more of if it was the right method for me. Because the thing that I think I also talked about it in my last video, when I was working through Genki, I tried reading news articles and things like that in Japanese, and I wasn't very successful at it, because everything within the textbook I was really good at. I was nailing the workbook exercises, I was nailing the regular exercises, but yeah, anything outside of the textbook in Japanese, I just couldn't comprehend. So that was really frustrating, but it was also kind of proved another point in that video, at least to me. And yeah, so I guess I just eventually I noticed myself slipping a lot when I was working through Genki 2, because I knew after I finished Genki 2, I wanted to start doing MIA, or it's Immersion. it's called Refold now, but like immersion based learning in general. And yeah, as a result of that, I was kind of like not caring. Like I was really forgetting a lot of what I was learning in the textbooks. So I was just like, oh, if I'm not learning, if it doesn't stick now, it'll probably stick later when I try to do immersion. So instead of just like, I was like kind of not like miserable, but I was very bored with learning Japanese when I was working through Genki, and that's like one of the big no-nos when it comes to learning a language, because if you become bored with it, then you're not gonna progress in any meaningful way. Like that's like basically the killer to learning. So yeah, I think I got up to chapter 20 in Genki 2. There is it goes up to chapter 23. I got to chapter 20, and I just like cut it from there because like last week I just had enough with it. Like I wanted to really start immersing and have fun again with like learning Japanese. So yeah, that's basically what I've been doing since like in this past week. I started immersion based learning. So to summarize the things that I've been doing, I'll probably talk a little bit more in depth about this in my 6-month video, which I plan on posting next month. But yeah, to give a brief summary, I don't know if I showed this in my last video, but I had it then, I just didn't use it. But I had Take Him's A Guide to Japanese Grammar. So a lot of what I learned in Genki, and yeah, it has a lot of overlap, but this also, like this whole book is dedicated completely to grammar, nothing else really. So yeah, it has a little bit more than Genki, but it's roughly like around the same material. But I'm still reading it because I feel like it'll be a good refresher to like the earlier things that I might be a little shaky on. But it also, like I said, implements some new things. So I've been reading through this every day, about 15 minutes, for 15 minutes every day. And I haven't been sentence mining Take Him. I've just been like reading through it and putting it on Boom Pro, because Boom Pro, for those of you who don't know, Boom Pro it's like Anki but for grammar, so an SRS for grammar. And it has like a specific grammar path for Take Him, so I've just been adding the grammar points that I don't know and repping those as well as other grammar. But yeah, for Kanji Look and Learn, I think that was what I was using last time. Yeah, I stopped using Kanji Look and Learn completely, and I think I also mentioned it in my last video, but I didn't have it at the time. I started using RTK after I started using RTK like a week after I put out my 3-month video. So shout out to my friend Jake, because he lent me this book, and yeah, I've been using it to learn kanji. I'm not doing the JP1K. For those of you who are familiar with like Japanese language learning, I'm not using the JP1K or RRTK, which is like the shortened version. I'm doing like the traditional 2200 kanji, like, so all of this in the book I'm learning. I crossed 1420 today, so 1420 kanji. I got through those. And yeah, the reason why I'm not doing like RRTK or the JP1K is because I already have like somewhat of a base when it comes to grammar and things like that from my previous study with Genki, and I wanted to just like get into reading like as soon as possible. Like that's kind of my reasoning behind why I wanted to learn all the 2200 kanji in the book, rather than just going through the shortened versions, which are probably more optimal for beginners. And I also feel like those decks, they're like really short for beginners, because it's really hard to sit through like and learn kanji for 3 months. If you're a complete beginner in the language, like I get that, but I felt like for me that wouldn't have been an issue. So I wanted to make sure that I learned all the kanji in this book, so I could start like reading like high levels like from the jump. And I also have the Tango. I also had this is the Tango N5. I think I showed this in my last video, but in my last video I was actually working through it like manually, so I didn't use any decks for it. Like I kind of just like checked off words that I didn't know because I was going through Genki vocabulary at the time as well. So yeah, I was kind of checking it off manually, and I didn't have the decks, but now I have the MIA Tango decks. So I've been working through the N5, and I also have the N4 physical copy. So I have both of the Tango decks. I'm about like 200 words into the MIA Tango N5 deck, and I'll probably do the N4 deck after. So yeah, that's basically a quick update of the things that I've been doing. Oh wait, did I talk about I don't think I talked about my immersion, but for immersion, yeah, what I've been doing, which is the main method, of course, like these are all supplements to immersion. But for immersion, I've been doing about 1 to 2 hours of active listening immersion. So watching shows, I'm watching K-On! Right now. So I do like just watched K-On! And I watched another series. So I'm like blanking on the name right now. But yeah, I watch 3 to 6 episodes of anime, and I like try to like actively pay attention to it. And for reading immersion, I do about an hour every day, because like I said, I already have somewhat of a base from Genki. Take him as just, more to like cement everything, and like immersion in general is, supposed to cement all those grammar points. But yeah, I've been reading from the jump. I'm using Manabi Reader on my iPad to read Japanese articles. So yeah, Japanese articles in Japanese, 30 minutes every day. And I'm also reading manga. I'm reading Yotsubato, which is like I'm not gonna bother saying it again. If you know it, you know it. But yeah, so I've been doing 30 minutes of news and 30 minutes of manga, so 1 hour of reading every day. And also I've been doing like active or passive listening. Like I ripped audio files from shows, put them on my phone, and now I'm just like listening to them like all the time. So that's basically what my day consists of when it comes to immersion and learning Japanese. Yeah, that's all I wanted to put out for this mini update. I'll probably be like a lot more in depth with the things that I've done when it comes to immersion-based learning in my next video, which will be like 6 months since I started learning Japanese. But yeah, quick update. Sorry if this runs a little longer, but I wanted to make it as short as possible, but I also wanted to make sure I got everything that I wanted to say. But that kind of concludes it for now, and yeah, I guess I'll see you in a month.